So welcome back to another episode of the Unframe of Mind show. I am Daniel Wagner, and today I am speaking with a new friend of mine by the name of Gabriella Guglielminotti. Trivel. Did I get that right?
Yes, you got it perfectly. Thank you, Daniel.
Sweet. All right. So Gabriella is a self-proclaimed woman of the 21st century, author, speaker, and a consultant for the female cycle. She runs her consultancy from her website, flyinginspiration.co.uk, where she helps women reframe the curse of what the menstrual cycle really is. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for having me today.
I know it seems a little odd that I would be interested in learning about the female cycle, but the more I researched what you're doing, the more curious I became. So I guess the first thing I'd like to start with is this idea. I've got 3 daughters and 1 son and a wife, and I always joke around how their cycles are going to end up, being on 1 week each, and me and my son are going to have to leave the house for the entire month just to avoid it, and it becomes like this running joke that women on their periods is crazy and unpredictable, and you never know how to handle it. I guess maybe you can help us unframe kind of what's going on there from the men's or the husband's perspective. Maybe help us shed a little light on that.
Yes, well, curiosity is a good place to start, I think, a very good one, because when you are curious, you're open to find out the truth or what it is, that you don't know. So it's a very good start. Thank you for the question. It's a very good one, and I'm always so pleased to speak to men, because they are at the receiving end of it, of what the female cycle is really. And with so many women not really being aware of what goes on for themselves in their own body, I'm not surprised that men feel a bit randomly thrown something they don't know what it is, or they find maybe themselves walking on eggshells, or that feeling, and it's not a nice feeling. It's a feeling of you don't want to hurt anybody, at the same time you want to protect yourself, and you would just simply like to know more, and by knowing more, actually it would make each other's life much easier. So maybe I could start to shed some light on this magical and strange topic called the female cycle. I prefer to call it female cycle rather than just menstruation, because a woman is affected by her body in the whole month, not just when she bleeds, which officially the physical terms is menstruation, but it's a kind of difficult term for majority of people.
Oh, okay. So you're referring to the entire month and how it affects the body, not just the 1 week where things just get really really crappy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So maybe for me the best place to start to shed some light, Daniel, would be to explain to you what actually happens, and with my metaphor of the season, which is a very simple one. It works both for men and women to understand a bit better what it's all about. So then after that you can ask me other questions.
Okay.
So quite simply, a woman during the whole month, she goes like the whole year. Let me frame it in this way. A year has 4 seasons, okay? And this 4 season that most of us are familiar with, and even if you live at the tropics, doesn't matter, because everybody these days quite easily has access to internet. So through the internet, we all know what is, what are the 4 seasons are. Mm. Now, these 4 seasons tend to affect us, and we think in a different way, we do different things. We have different ideas. We experience different states. Physical, mental, emotional is just the way it is. We live in or under the weather, so of course we are affected by it. And the same happens in a woman's body. The 4 weeks that compose a month, and I'm talking generally here, every woman has different length of a period, but
Right.
because we are different, but to make it easier, let's speak about 4 weeks. And those 4 weeks are these 4 physical states, which are the pre-ovulatory phase, which is the week when a woman has finished, after she has finished bleeding. So it's the first week is called pre-ovulatory. Then the second week is the ovulatory week. And when obviously she ovulates and can be fertile for pregnant. The third week is the premenstrual week. And then the fourth week is menstruation or the menstrual phase, okay, when a woman bleeds, meaning she sheds the lining of the uterus that forms every month. And if a woman falls pregnant, it helps to keep the baby, the future baby, the fetus. So if a woman doesn't fall pregnant, the fourth week of her month, she sheds this lining. And so she menstruates, or basically she expels this lining through blood. Now, these 4 weeks affects a woman deeply. And to understand how the woman will feel in those 4 weeks, I compare them to the 4 seasons. So let's start with spring.
So I'm going to guess we're going to go pre-ovulatory for the spring season.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So this phase, this week for a woman is a week when she tends to feel very energetic, full of ideas, or she's very outgoing, and she feels very social, and she is entrepreneurial. Let's put it this way, okay? Her energy goes out into the world. So she tends to be, let's say, more easygoing, okay? The second week, which is the ovulatory week, is comparable to summer. So again, it's a very social week in which she feels even more abundant, so to speak. So it means she has time, energy, interest for everybody.
That kind of sounds like baby making season.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, she has to be that way. Otherwise, how are you going to do any mating?
This is true.
Yeah. So that's the way nature, predisposes you to be very social and open in all senses.
Now, Gabriella, I always thought that holding hands in public was what caused babies, but it turns out it's actually during a woman's summer season.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm starting to learn.
Yes, and holding just hands is not enough.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you. No, that's been a running joke between me and my wife. Because we have 4 kids, and it seems like after we say we stopped holding hands in public, and that's when we didn't get pregnant no more. So that must be what caused it.
So in that week, the summer week for the woman, like the spring as well, but even more, it's really a social week. It's really a week when a woman is the perfect organizer, is the perfect carer, is the perfect manager. She can do it all. And she tends to do it and to say yes to everybody. But then when the following week of fall or autumn, kicks in, which is the premenstrual week, her energy really changes. And so, like in autumn, we tend to start feeling the chill in the air. So the energy it changes, so we don't feel that kind of social anymore. It's not party season anymore, or at least not as it used to be in summer. So it's time to really work hard before the winter comes, right?
Yes.
If you want to think in agricultural terms. So it's the time where you have to do your harvest and to really work hard, because then winter comes. So it's a week when a woman starts reducing her outpour of energy, and she starts having more of a self-interest, so an inward interest. And so, what she has been doing so much in the previous 2 weeks, let's say for the world, or also the family or society or whatever, then in that week, which is the third week, it becomes less appealing to her. So she starts saying more no's. And it's not a question of being mean or becoming nasty. It's just the way nature works, So more need to rest, more need to look after oneself, herself, obviously. And so also the other thing that is very important in this week, she starts seeing all the shortfalls, all the things that she wasn't noticing, during spring and summer, they come to the forefront of her mind. So it's a more kind of less social, so it can be more difficult week if we see this as a difficulty. But if we look at it on a biological level, it makes sense, because you can't be on the go 100% all the time. It's the shortcut to burnout.
So
okay?
let me pause on that for just a second. Is that that seems to be the time when the mood swings tend to take over more strongly than the rest of the other seasons, if you will. I guess my question is, I sometimes get the sense that mood swings or getting ready to start my period or whatever, it just can almost be used as an excuse to justify not controlling your anger. I guess I'm curious, is it possible to get some control over the mood swings, or is that completely just
Okay, I want to really answer you, but I would prefer first, if you don't mind, finish with the season, and then we go back to that, because it's a very good question, and I think it affects so many women, and as a consequence, men as well.
Yeah, we can do that, sure.
Yeah. So let's just finish. This is the energy that kicks in for a woman in the third week during fall. Okay, then the fourth week, which is winter, is the week when a woman bleeds. Okay, so like in winter, we tend to be withdrawn. We sleep more. We are more reserved, less social, definitely. And it's almost time to read a good book on the sofa rather than being outside partying all the time. So it's actually, it is a kind of a party, but it's an inner party for the woman. So during the bleeding week, a woman who is aware and of her body, and she's in her authority. By this I mean she's conscious that it's a necessity for her to rest, and so is a non-negotiable. It's not a question of being mean, not available, or whatever. That doesn't even come into the question. It's just a question of, if you are asleep, if you are tired, you sleep. If you're hungry, you eat. If you're thirsty, you drink. And so it should be for a woman during that week. But there is a lot of conditioning about that. So women tend to repress all these needs just to keep serving. But I want to spend another few words about this week, because it's very important. It's also a week when a woman tends to become much more psychic than normal. Women tend to be more psychic anyway than possibly men. I don't know, but I'm a.
Now, when you say psychic, are you meaning like intuitive?
Yes, yes. I can only talk for as a woman, so I hope nobody's offended by this, but I'm not a man, so I
Oh
can only
gosh,
guess.
I'm totally offended by it personally, and I'm so
Okay,
close.
okay.
I'm
So,
gonna snap here any minute.
okay. So when I say psychic, it means that a woman becomes much more intuitive, as you said, correct?
Uh-huh.
And it's almost like in her mind, the two worlds, the conscious world and the unconscious, become better friends than normal. So she might have insights, understanding about stuff that she maybe normally wouldn't know, or she might have premonition, and this is just normal. But again, if a woman is not connected to herself, she might bypass that, not even noticing it. So in this week, a woman is definitely less available for obvious reason. Especially you as a man, you can, being at the receiving end, you can understand why possibly is less acceptable socially, because it's not is no time basically.
Yeah.
And so it's no production time, by the way, it's downtime, or it should, because that's the way nature designed us. And nature knows it best, maybe more than the actual society.
Kind of makes it intentionally inconvenient to be social at that time, it seems. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to answer your question about the fall, and because we're talking about winter as well, I will start answering with this important definition. The first 2 weeks, spring and summer, are 2 weeks that are more male energy dominated season or weeks, meaning a woman she's in her masculine more, which means it's an outward energy, it's more action, okay, it's more production, it's more society, social, family, and all the rest you want to put in that, okay? The two following weeks, which are fall and winter, are predominantly female energy weeks or season, which means it's a different type of energy to the masculine. The female energy is a nurturing energy, is an energy of resting, of more pondering, of attracting. Okay, so it's not action, it's at least less action. But I'm saying this because people forget we are in a society that is still men run. So everything that is masculine, it's okay, it's appreciated, is emphasized, is rewarded. But what generally, by the same token, everything that is feminine is less interesting, is less appreciated, is less rewarded, is not even validated at times.
Almost rejected.
Yes, so or you can understand that a woman that in those 2 weeks, she feels more the need to be there for herself, or to do things that are less physical, and maybe more nurturing for herself first, or so it should be, and then obviously pass this on to possibly a family, or in her work, or whatever it is. But it's a more nurturing time, quiet time, rather than action, business as usual. So that's why possibly, if you think about it, it makes sense why those 2 weeks, they tend to be rejected by society and labeled as something which is uncomfortable. In this country, UK, but also in other countries, sometimes menstruation is labeled as the curse. It's not a curse at all. And besides, if a woman wouldn't go through that cycle, she wouldn't be able to produce offspring. So human race would be an end to an end of it. Okay,
but that seems pretty important.
Yeah, so it
having the
means that we have lost, as Western societies at least, I'm a Western person, so I feel entitled to talk mainly about Western societies simply
Sure.
because it's my direct experience. We have lost that sacredness about the menstruation. But if I say menstruation, it would mean just that week, but this is the whole cycle. It's the cycle of life. So it should be something revered. It should be something taken very seriously and appreciated, and not disregarded or discarded as an inconvenience. But we do that with many things in our Western society. Like old age is considered in the same way, death. There are so many subjects we don't want to talk about. For a woman, by the way, every month going through winter is like a little death, it's like a mini death. So you can easily understand why a woman is less social, because she has business of her own to deal with.
No, understood.
So now, from a man's point of view, this is very important to know, because if it's a caring partner or husband or spouse or whatever you want to call it, and he knows about this, he can then see that week as his chance to help out, his chance to have intimacy. A very different type of intimacy with his partner or spouse or wife or girlfriends or whatever. Why? Because a woman in that time, she is very receptive. She is. But it's a very type of reception, she can be feeling very vulnerable, very delicate. Maybe it's like she tends to maybe be more tired, so her temper might be a bit on the short end of the spectrum. But there's a good reason for it. Then, so if a man knows all this, he won't take it personal, right? And he should be more open to listen, because, by the way, you were saying about mentioning about about mood swing. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say this because it's very important for men. When a woman starts being in fall and then in winter, it's really the right time for a man to listen, because during those 2 weeks, a woman enters like I call it the truth period. Which means, because she's more open, she's more receptive, she's more in her feminine, she sees more. And so when she speaks, in a way, her unconscious comes to the surface more. So if there is an issue, for instance, in the relationship, it should be really listening time for a man during those 2 weeks, because you will be guaranteed that 100% that if there's something cooking, it will pop up during those 2 weeks. Now, if a man doesn't know and is not receptive, in that way, and would just take it personal and think that his wife is going bananas, nuts, or whatever, obviously, as you can imagine, he won't be open to a real discussion, for instance. He won't be open to be willing maybe to help more and to allow her to rest more. So it should be a cooperation, because the basic need of man is to want to help, to make his partner happy and help with what he can. So it's a need for a man. It's just the way men are designed by nature, okay? And for a woman, it's just the opposite. So in a way, it's quite empowering for a man to be able to execute that, as it is for a woman very empowering to be able to be in her feminine and receive. But we have been a bit screwed up. So
Well, it seems like because I kind of have one speed all the time. It's like I'm constantly in my summer season. I think it's the best one I associate with, maybe my spring and summer season, like all the time. And it kind of almost sounds exhausting, going between these four seasons. And from what I'm hearing you say, it almost sounds like it might that exhaustion, or that perception of exhaustion, might feel a little less overwhelming if women were more in touch with what's actually going on with their bodies throughout the entire cycle, and if they were, if they knew more. I guess if they were better. Gosh, I can't even think of the words here.
Less conditioned. Because we are all conditioned to produce, to be on the go all the time, but it's not sustainable. It's like the economic illusion of the society and finances and the economy growing all the time. It's not sustainable. It's just the way it is. Why? Because nature shows us every year, every day. There is a day and night. There is a spring, summer, and then there's a fall and winter.
Time for rest. Time for growth.
Yeah, and it should be so obvious that we all get it, but we don't.
Now that you pointed out, it really does seem like super obvious, but it's just I don't think it's really framed that way for most women. It almost seems like oh no, here we go again. Got to go to the store, get the pads. Got to deal with this. It's like, oh God.
But I want to ask you a question. Imagine if you were in a woman's body, okay, and every month you reach that point when the fall kicks in, and you just feel this need because your body simply slows you down. But you can't slow down because you have to keep going and pretend that this business as usual. It's not. So imagine the stress, the accumulation of stress for a woman, month after month after month. So then, wondering why mood swings? Well, it's just a natural reaction to the fact that you can't really follow yourself. No, you have to keep going.
I can almost imagine it. I can kind of connect with that in terms of, say, I go for a week with no sleep. I guess by the if I never take that time to rest and I'm constantly going for 24/7, I guess you might get a little cranky toward the end of the week.
You break down. It's almost like kind of what has been done to women is this. Basically, figuratively speaking, it's almost has been intimidated to us that we cannot go to sleep. And this is so insane, because everybody knows if you was missing even just for a couple of days, a bit of your sleep, unless you are in your 20s, but you start accusing it, you feeling it, being affected by it. It's just normal, It would be like you have a problem. Okay, you go to the doctor. The doctor convinces you that actually you should stop sleeping. You will think that doctor is mad. And it's actually the same thing that happens with women. They go to the doctor or gynecologist and they put them on the pill. And what happens is basically on a biological level, physical level, is what it does. It basically, it's something artificial, chemical, synthetic hormones that make the woman's body, being on the go all the time.
Oh, almost like shooting crack and go, go, go.
Yeah, because basically it's
Lord.
like a fake pregnancy for the body itself. That's what the pill does. So you can imagine how absurd and how criminal that is.
So I had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, but I think if we were if you were, as we are in a man-run society, if men had to menstruate, I think it would be legal to take a few days off during the winter time or menstruation. Something like the pill would never appeared, it would be considered criminal and all the rest. But because you know, men have been running the show, and this is not an accusation, it's just a fact, basically. You know, all these things, we take them as normal, but they shouldn't be normal, because the natural rhythm of a woman should be respected.
I guess it kind of makes sense, because men are traditionally they're the resource gatherers, and the women would traditionally stay home and take care of the kids and raise the family, and it was more of a social, smaller, tight knit environment. And when I guess similarly to if men were to try to come take over the feminine roles and the feminine, it's like when you get this mix, you kind of get this chaos going on where suddenly we're not really sure what's going on here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I wanted to add this concerning exactly what you just said. Can you see, though, knowing this, that in a relationship, for instance, if a woman respects her cycle, natural rhythm, okay, a man obviously living together with her or being in a relationship with her anyway, he would go also along with that rhythm, okay? It's the natural thing. But don't you see how beneficial it would be for the men too? Why? Because it's very beneficial to go through different energies. They are complementary rather than being on the go all the time.
Yeah, I could totally understand the value in it, as far as taking some time for more self-reflection and that kind of thing. Let me wrap up with one last question here. I was curious about. I saw on your webpage that you said you wish somebody had explained this to you during your teenage years, and I was curious how you think things might have been different for you on a more personal level if you would have understood this better.
Yeah, I only found out about all this in my 40s, so I was already well grown up woman. And with a divorce below my belt, different careers. So when I find out about all this, I realized I had a moment, even if brief, but of grieving, because I realized that as a woman, I should have known about this early on. And so as a consequence of that, I would have, everything would have unfolded for me more organically, okay? And the main thing that also hit me, it was the fact that I would have developed my inner authority in a very natural way within time by learning cycle after cycle after cycle, because the cycle in itself for a woman is very educative, informative. If she's aware of it, a woman can really learn a bit about herself in every different season. So, as you can imagine, month after month after month, decades after decades, a woman really grows, unfolds, and by doing this, also her authority grows and unfolds. Her authority meaning her inner knowing, her discernment, her wisdom. And it can only be beneficial for her, but as a consequence for society and men too. Why? Because a man possibly will be a mother within her life, okay? So being a good mother means having good future generation, handing over a good legacy. That benefits society and men as well. And besides, there's nothing more empowering and delicious for a man to be in a relationship or standing next to an empowered woman. Why? Because an empowered woman is it's a pleasure to be with. It's joyful. It is abundant in all senses. It is life full.
Man, it almost sounds like you're describing, say, if you're on like birth control or whatever, and you're not really in tune with those cycles. It's almost like you go your whole life and you never use a particular muscle that's supposed to help you grow, and then by the time you figure out, all this time I should have been building that muscle up. I've been using this crutch to hold me up. Well, now you can't even use the muscle anymore. Like it's atrophied after all these years. Does that kind of makes sense to what you're describing?
Yes, it's a perfect metaphor for it. Exactly, it's like a muscle. And so imagine, nature designed us in this way to really develop ourselves with all our energies and skills and possibilities, potential, basically. But we don't, because we are unaware of it, and even worse, we feel ashamed of it. And so, surprise, surprise, there are so many women that have problems during the pre-menstrual week or menstrual week. Why? Because they are the 2 weeks when a woman really should be in her feminine, which, being a woman, it should be her main power. Meaning, by power, meaning where she is at home, okay? Not power going out to defeat the rest of the world. Meaning power, meaning wisdom, discernment, okay? That life force that should come to you. It should be your birthright. It should be your place of pleasure, So by the time you reach menopause, it should be almost like a graduation day. The time when a woman really, she reaps all her skills, wisdom, and gifts. And so then she goes into the, call it, wisdom years, when she can really spread and give away and share her wisdom, her discernment, her legacy, her authority, everything. So that's why, in different cultures, in different parts of the world, that generally all women tended to be, not in this era obviously, but they tended to be revered and considered highly. For instance, I tell you something that you are in the States. So Native American Indians used to have what they call it the Moon Lodge. A place where women would go during the winter time, meaning the menstrual season or the menstrual week, to be with other women, to be in a more nurturing female energy, okay, and to rest. And Indian chief would appreciate the fact of women taking time off and knowing that they would become very they would enter a space which would be considered a sacred space. So they would slide under the tents of the moon lodges. The question, the big thing to resolve for the tribe. Why? Because they knew that women coming out of their winter week, their winter, they would have communed more with the spirit world, okay, where all the answers are. And so, can you see what kind of approach, consideration used to be very different from our approach in Western society?
Sure. It almost sounds like they're more in touch with the ebb and flow of the whole cycle, and they were just, instead of fighting against it and trying to correct it, so to speak, they just accepted it for what it was and incorporated it into their actual daily lives. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Gabriella, I sure appreciate you coming on and shedding some light on this very interesting subject. Is there a good what's the best place for people to reach you if they have any other questions for you?
Yeah, if they have questions or if they want to know more, they can go to my website, flyinginspiration.com or .co.uk. Flying meaning FLYING, and inspiration as having an inspiration, written in one word, flyinginspiration.com. And there they can contact me, or they can read articles, listen to other radio interviews, or watching videos. And if they still feel they have other questions, they can always contact me.
All right, very cool. Well, I sure appreciate talking to you.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for this time and giving me the opportunity to talk about something that is not always talked or seen, perceived in a positive
Yeah,
way.
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess
I hope it will be useful for you to improve your family life, your as a father, as a husband, as a colleague, as a friend, whatever is your role in life.